Well, hello everyone, it's Nina. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm here with a couple of cards to share with you featuring some fun ways to get more out of your die cuts. This video is also part of the new Simon Says Stamp Among the Stars release blog hop, so be sure to head on over to my blog after this video to learn more about that. For my card, I'm going to be using the Hydrangea Petals die set and also the dies that coordinate with the Tropical Leaves stamp set. I'm going to be using both of these to create some beautiful floral cards. Here's the products that I'm using. These are all brand new for the new Simon release. This stamp set I actually designed, and I'm super excited about that because this was a fun project for me to create all these different sentiments, and I just love playing with typography. Here also is the Tropical Leaves die set. You can see these have some gorgeous leaf shapes, and they can be used on their own. The leaf shapes do, of course, cut out the coordinating stamp set images, but I like being able to use my dies on their own if possible because it gets more use out of them. And then here's also the Hydrangea Petals die set. These have some beautiful petal dies in it that you can use to build up some hydrangea flowers. I'm going to be using those today. So let's get started and get to creating the card. Before I get into making the project, I want to show you how I cut apart my dies. I've got some metal wire snip scissors here. I got these at my local hardware store. These are perfect for trimming out the dies from each other. You could, of course, bend them apart, but sometimes they have those teeny tiny little spots that are hard to bend apart. So these wire snips work perfect. Now I'm going to be using my Big Shot machine, and I've got some white watercolor paper here that I'm going to be die cutting first out of. I'm lining up all of my little hydrangea petals and also the leaves. I'm going to be die cutting all of these elements out. And I'm die cutting all these on purpose because I want to use a bunch of different petals and leaves to create a beautiful floral arrangement, and I'm going to be doing some watercoloring on them. I'm also going to be using the negative portion of this die, so be sure to save that once you've finished running this through your Big Shot machine or any other die cutting machine. In the end, I ended up die cutting about 2 of each image, and that's just going to allow me to have some extras in case I mess up on one, or if I wanted to create more cards, I could even cut out more of them. So save that negative piece. Here are the positive pieces, which we'll be using for our first card. Alright, so once I've die cut that, you can see all the pieces we have now from all of that die cutting, and these are so much fun. I'm going to remove the flowers so that way I have the petals and leaves in one pile and then the flowers in the other. Once I have them separated, I'm going to get started on my watercoloring. I'm going to be using some distress inks. I've got first some worn lipstick and picked raspberry inks, which I'm smushing onto a piece of plastic off to the right hand side. You can't see it in the camera, but I'm just using that as a palette for my watercoloring. I'm going to pick up the color and apply this down onto the flowers. And this is going to allow me to create some really pretty and quick coloring on these flowers. I'm not going too detailed and rather keeping it just impressionistic, but I think that really adds to the beautiful appearance of these flowers. Because these are die cut pieces, they don't have the detail that stamped images would have, so I think adding the simplistic coloring really lends to a beautiful appearance. Once I've colored in the flowers, I've set them aside, and now I'm going to start working on the petals. I colored the petals with a bunch of different blues and greens, colors like peeled paint, crushed olive, twisted citron, stormy sky. I added a little bit of broken china and some cracked pistachio. Just a few random colors that I thought matched well together and that would really complement the beautiful pink colors on the hydrangeas. So I'll just keep coloring all these in until I have all the images colored. It was very loose watercoloring. I'm just adding color here and there, and I'm allowing the water to create hard edges. It's really just a very freestyle form of coloring. While my watercolored images are drying, I'm taking the negative portion of my die cut pieces, and I'm going to be laying this over some white cardstock, and I'm going to take some distress inks. I'm going to tape this negative piece down. This is going to be a mask. I'm going to start sponging on some shaded lilac distress ink onto these flowers. I wasn't sure at first how I wanted to add the color. I thought maybe I'd add darker color along the tips, but I ended up deciding that I wanted to layer them up. So I decided to go with a full flat color on these flowers. These are going to be the darker layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and remove the mask and do a second layer that's slightly lighter, so that way I have some variation in the color tones. Now I'm going to reapply that mask over top of our images, and that's going to help me line these up because these dies are solid, so you can't see through them. So I'll just go ahead and run that through my machine so that way I can go ahead and cut those out. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and reapply it and line them back up over top of these as well, so that way I can die cut the lighter colored petals. And after I've die cut them, I'm going to go ahead and start layering them up together. You can see I'm just kind of playing around with the placement. And then I'll just take some adhesive and add some glue to the center portion of the flower, and then press that down right into the glue, and that'll hold the petals in place. Next, I'm going to work on the leaves. I'm a little off camera here, sorry about that. But I'm just taking some distress inks and adding color through the mask onto some cardstock. And I'm just using the same colored greens and blues that I used for my watercoloring. And I'll just keep doing this until I've inked up a good variety of leaves for these cards. I'm using a piece of paper to help me keep from getting ink on other areas of these masks because I've got so many different pieces so close together. I want to make sure I don't get ink on another image that I don't want to have ink on. So I'm just using that paper to help cover things up where I need to. So once I die cut those as well, I didn't need to line them up like I did for the hydrangea petals because the dies for the tropical leaves are open dies, so I could see right through those and line them up perfectly. So I'll just set those aside for now, and I'm going to start adding some texture to my watercolored petals and leaves. I'm taking my distress sprayer and spritzing on a bunch of different water droplets all over these little petals and leaves. And this water is going to react with the distress ink that we watercolored with because distress inks are formulated to do that. So I'm just going to lift that off with a rag, and you can see the beautiful water splattered look that we get from adding those water droplets over top of these images. I'll go ahead and dry those too with my heat gun just to make sure that they're good and dry. Next, I'm going to start building my card bases. So here I've got some white cardstock, and I'm just taking a Simon Says Stamp Stitch rectangle die. I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Then I'm also going to take the new stitched banner dies. These are brand new for Simon Says Stamp that came out in this release. I'm going to line this up along the left-hand side of my card. And you can see I already did this for one of the cards. I'm creating the cards exactly the same, just changing up the elements. I'll go ahead and run this through my Big Shot machine as well. And then there you can see we're going to have these beautiful inlay die cut panels that's going to add just a little bit of interest to our cards without being distracting for our elements. So now I'm going to take some black ink. I'm going to flick a bunch of splatters all over these panels. This is just going to add a little bit extra texture to the card and add to the artistic feel. I'm going to put some adhesive on the back side of the panel that has the banner die cut from it. I'll lay that flush onto a white card base. This is an A2 sized card. Once I have that laid down, I'm going to add some fun foam to the back side of our banner, and this is going to pop it up off of our card. So we're going to be doing some dimensional inlay die cutting here to help give the card a little bit of interest, but again, it's not going to be distracting because we want our focus to be on the beautiful florals that we've created because we put so much time and effort into them. So now I'm going to start arranging my petals and leaves. I'm just being careful not to move things around too much, and those flowers are still drying a little bit because I had applied glue to the back side to hold them in place. So I'm just being careful as I do that, just playing around with how things look, rearranging things as needed. And then once I'm happy, I'm going to start gluing things down with my PPA matte adhesive. I'm just adding dots of glue along the back side, and that's just going to hold things down nicely. You don't need a lot of glue when you're doing this. Just add a little dot of adhesive on the back side, and that glue will hold it down perfectly, especially when you're using something like PPA matte adhesive or Ranger's Multi-Matte Medium. Both of those glues are very strong. So I'll just keep arranging these petals and leaves. You can see I've got the purple hydrangeas already laid down, and I'm fluffing up the leaves and petals a little bit, and that's good to go. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the other flowers. I'm going to just add adhesive along the back side, hold things down good, and then I'll go ahead and arrange the flowers on top. Next, I wanted to add my sentiments with the Uplifting Thoughts stamp set, so I just stamped them in black ink onto some white cardstock, and I'm fussy cutting them out. This is just going to let me achieve some dimension with this sentiment, and I just quickly went around the edges of this and left a little bit of a white border. Once I have that cut out, I'll just pop them up off of my card using some foam tape. Now I wanted to add some embellishing to these flowers, so I'm taking some buttons and sequins and seed beads from 28 Lilac Lane's collections. These are the Pretty Princess bottles and the Minty Fresh bottles. Both of these embellishment bottles have some gorgeous buttons and sequins and seed beads that all coordinate well together. And I used a variety of everything on these cards so that way I could have some fun clustered embellishments. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the pink card. I'll just add the buttons to the center and then glue down the seed beads and sequins. And I'm using glossy accents to do this because the glossy accents is very clear. So it will hold everything down good and also make sure that you can't see the adhesive if anything squeezes out. So here are the finished cards. You can see how fun they were to create and how we got so much extra use out of our die cuts to really create some fun and beautiful cards. So I hope you've enjoyed and got some inspiration on using some of the new products from the Simon Says Stamp Among the Stars release. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below and head on over to my blog where you can get more information on this card, including still pictures and products used. If you enjoyed this video, here's another one you might like featuring Simon Says Stamp exclusive products. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can connect with me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, as well as my blog. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.